Welcome to the second edition of the Leadership Unplugged series, an initiative by the Branding and Public Relations Committee at Great Lakes, Chennai, where we provide you opportunities to interact with some great industry leaders, listen to their success stories, and learn from their accounts firsthand. Today, we have with us a person who has donned many hats over the years, a science kid in junior college who went on to graduate in law. He did several internships in journalism and advertising, and even took time off to learn to tattoo. This new age entrepreneur, along with three of his friends, founded the Soul Store back in 2013. The Soul Store is India's biggest brand for official licensed merchandise, with products ranging all the way from t shirts, backpacks, and mobile covers to socks, pins, badges, and a whole lot more. Combining his love for numbers and pop culture, Harsh handles licensing, retail, and marketplaces at the Soul Store. He also enjoys kickboxing, tennis, and doing research on what TV shows to watch next. And he also has a newfound love for podcasts. Without further ado, let's deep dive into Harsh's entrepreneurial journey so far, understand what comes with following your passion, and get some insights into the fashion space in India. Welcome, Harsh, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Kirti, for that really nice introduction. It's definitely one of the better introductions I've had. So thank you so much for that. And I'm really excited to talk to so many students and share some of the tidbits from my journey and hopefully inspire the next wave of entrepreneurs in the country. So yeah, really excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsh. So, as we all know now, Soul Store has come a long way since its inception, and today it's almost a household name for most millennials, and definitely for all of us on this call. So, tell us a little bit about this journey, and where did it all begin?
I think the short answer to that is it began with four people not being happy with what they were doing in life, not being excited about showing up to work every single day and looking at the clock, waiting for it to strike 6 or 7 so they could leave. So I think the common thing that all of us had was we wanted to do something fun with our lives. We were all in our young 20s, in our early 20s. We'd all graduated. We were all doing our first job, and none of us were excited about it, right? So we're like, is this how we want to spend the rest of the life? Do you want to wake up every Monday waiting for Friday or Saturday? Or do you want to actually do something that you enjoy, something that you actually look forward to every single morning, and something that feels more like fun and less like work? So I think that was the reason we started the Soul Store. And the one thing that we made sure from day one, right, one of the few things that's not changed back from 2013 to 2021, from a time where there was just the four of us and maybe one or two people in our team to about 500 people plus today, that one culture, that one philosophy that we will make sure that everyone who joins the organization is going to enjoy working, they're going to have fun, and they're actually going to be passionate about what they do. I think that culture is something that we've managed to set and retain across the last 8.5 years. And it's something that I'm personally very proud of. So, yeah, that's the broader reason behind why we started the Soul Store.
So we also want to understand. So success, again, there's so many ways for each person to define it, right? And all of us have very subjective takes on what success means to us. So what does success mean to you? One is as a brand, and the other is as an individual. And has this definition itself changed over these few years?
I'll take the second part first. I think it's definitely changed over the few years. In back in 2013, when we started off, like I said, we all quit our first jobs. We had about 5 lakhs of savings combined from all our first jobs, and we didn't have any experience, no family business. This is all the money we had, right? So our first definition of success would simply be surviving. I think that incentive that all of us had, that none of us wanted to go back to our jobs, was strong enough to keep pushing us to work harder and do well, right? So at a time when we started the Soul Store without any external funding, without any family business, without any experience, I think survival in the first couple of years itself was success for us. And then obviously as the brand grew, as the customer love increased, we obviously started setting higher targets and higher sort of standards and benchmarks for ourselves. But when you personally ask me how I define success or what I am most proud of, it's not specific to numbers. I think numbers that we are happy with today will look small tomorrow, will look small day after. I think as you keep growing, as your expectations keep growing, I think that number or that final number, the target that you're looking at is like tomorrow, right? Tomorrow never comes. It's always around the horizon, but it's not something you can really grab onto and hold. For me, I think one thing that I am personally most proud of is the fact that some of the people who started their journey with the Source of back in 2013 are still a part of our organization today. As I mentioned, there was a very, very high chance of a brand like ours actually not making it past the first 6 or 12 months without external funding. So when these people decided to join the Soul Store, there was a bit of a gamble that they were also taking. They were trusting their careers and their livelihoods with four students who just graduated from college who are still figuring out things themselves. But I think what they saw in us was that passion and that sort of desperation and that junoon, as I like to call it, that we want to make sure that we will succeed at all costs. We took a bit of a gamble with them. They took a bit of a gamble with us. And I'm super proud to say that these people who kind of took up TSS as their first job are now leading teams of 30, 40, 50 people. In fact, our warehouse manager today leads a team of more than 200 people. He's actually personally in charge of more people than I'm in charge of. And that's something that makes me super proud that all of these guys started their journey with the Soul Store, and seeing how they've succeeded, seeing how they've actually grown and taken up more responsibilities is something that I am very, very proud of. And I can say this is the journey that we've built together with our core team. So I think that for me is success. And at a smaller or a more fun level, I think, even today when you're roaming around on the streets and you see someone wearing one of our products, I think there's just that sort of, that quiet sort of satisfaction and validation that, we've kind of arrived. People love our stuff, people are wearing our stuff, and I think it's a kick which is difficult to describe.
Right. So you've spoken about the culture quite a bit, and considering that all of you all used to work in traditional, I'm hoping, guessing centralized organization structures, how
Yes.
important was this sort of building a culture for the brand, and is it something that all four of you were like on the same page about?
100%, right? I think the one thing that we would definitely not want is for a demotivated person waking up every single morning and pushing themselves to come to the source or at work, because we knew for a fact, right, hand on my heart, I knew that I was a substandard employee, if I can call myself that, because I was never motivated enough to push myself, right? Always was the minimum amount of effort needed to get the job done. Just do that, finish your work, submit it, leave for the day, and then bother about something else. So I think Monday to Friday was almost like a means to an end, and that end was having fun on the weekends. And we realized that if that's the mindset with which someone is going to come to office, someone's going to come to work every day, you are never going to get even 80 or 90% out of someone. So if you want someone to give their 200% to the organization, they have to basically be taken care of. You have to make sure that they are enjoying work, they're having fun at work. You're creating an environment where people actually look forward to coming to work. And most of the people in our organization are in their early or mid 20s. In the last 3 or 4 years, as the company has grown, we've hired more senior resources as well. But I think about 70 to 80% of our organization is still early to mid 20s. And we've actually seen so many people who've come and gone. They've joined us, they've left. Eventually, they are still in touch with us. They're still in touch with their friends at the store, because they've developed bonds that will actually go well beyond work, and it's more like a fun environment that we've created. So that's something that we hold very, very close to our hearts even till today. And I hope that as we grow as an organization, that culture only keeps increasing.
Right. Also, see, when you started off, I think that a lot of the retail brands were still thriving off in an offline, mode with a lot of physical stores, right? So, why did you guys
Yes.
decide on e-commerce back in the day, and what are the challenges that you had to face when you were running an online business?
Okay. The simple reason for us not going offline is we didn't have the money to. I think expanding offline is a significantly more expensive way of reaching the target customer. If you're, let's say you're a Harry Potter fan, or you're a Marvel fan, or you're a DC fan, right? When I'm setting up my website and when I'm targeting you as a DC or a Marvel fan, it's a lot easier, it's a lot cheaper for me to target fans all across the country and give them one destination to shop from. If I open an offline store in Bombay today, I'm hoping that from the random set of people that come in, I'm hoping some of them may be Marvel fans. Within that, some of them may be Iron Man fans. Within that, some of them may like t-shirts, some of them may like shorts, right? So it's a bit of a hit and miss. And this is something that we, as an entrepreneur, especially as a company that was self-funded, I think starting off online was the cheapest, the most economical, and the most efficient way of actually reaching out to fans across the country. That was the sort of building block to tell people that, hey, we've arrived. It's the easiest way for us to actually let people experience a brand that they've not heard of. And obviously, once we did grow online. We actually started our first offline store after 6 years of building our brand. So yeah, I think in terms of achieving scale, I think in terms of finding your audience, and in terms of growing efficiently, in terms of capital and resources, online first was definitely the way to go. In terms of what challenges did we face, everything that could go wrong has gone wrong with us, right? So, as I mentioned, none of us have any experience in business. We don't have any family businesses that deal in apparel. So when we worked with our manufacturers for the first time, we were the smallest client of theirs, right? From, like running behind them because the quality that they promised was the quality that they delivered. There was a gap, committing that I will deliver your products on day one and actually delivering it on day five. There were a lot of, these smaller issues that we face. It was very, very frustrating, to be honest, at times, because we were pretty naive, right? If someone is committed a certain cost, they will obviously stick to it. If someone has committed a certain timeline, they should obviously stick to it. And we got a very, very loud, very intense wake up call when we realized that the industry does not function as smoothly and as logically and as honestly as we would expect. Everyone is out there to make a quick buck. And we did learn the hard way that, you are going to go through these cycles of frustration. You are going to go through times where people don't really live up to their commitments. But at that point, you can either tell yourself, hey, this is not fair. Someone committed this, but we couldn't do it. You can either accept defeat and you can say, this is not fair, or you can just basically dust yourself off and tell yourself, you know what, it doesn't matter. You only have one chance of succeeding. So you're going to do every single thing it takes and make sure you succeed. So initially, when we were just starting off, again, we didn't have the luxury of having multiple people on our team. We've done customer care on our own. We've been housekeeping at our offices. We've set up the warehouse on our own. We've packed orders on our own. We've delivered orders on our own. We've gone through that entire cycle on our own simply because we didn't want to spend salaries on more people. And I think it's important for anyone who's looking to build out their own business. We often see only the glamorous, the sexy part that gets covered in the news publications about funding rounds. But I think it's very important that if you want to really succeed as an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to do the hard yards and go through the grind, because this is something that no one prepares you for, right? When you're in college, no one tells you about the 500 challenges that you're going to face. As your company scales, some of the challenges that we faced early on do get replaced by newer, bigger challenges. So every single day, you're being thrown into an unfamiliar situation. Every day, your patience and your hard work and your willpower is going to be tested. It's a very thankless journey. It's a very, very difficult journey. But if you're willing to do those hard yards and make sure that I'm not going to give up till I reach my goals, it can also be a very, very satisfying journey.
Was there a moment, or I don't know if it,
Sorry, I think I can hear some.
yeah, just 1 second.
I can hear someone talking. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I think there was someone speaking in the
Yes.
background.
So I was asking, was there a moment or a day when, like in the beginning, in the, preliminary years when you felt like, okay, I think this is going to be something big, or what was the first sort of big achievement where all of you all knew that, okay, this is going to go in the right direction and we can make something out of this?
So to be honest, I think one of the reasons we succeeded is we've never had that feeling. If you ask me that today also, I think while we are extremely proud of what we have achieved, the kind of brand that we've built and the kind of scale that we have achieved, I think we've seen, especially over the last 2.5 years, that you can never be too comfortable. Things can change overnight, right? Back when the lockdown hit us in March, April, May 2020, as a brand selling non-essential products, our entire operations were completely shut down for about 2.5 months, and then things slowly started opening up, right? So while we are very, very grateful for the kind of journey we've had, it's something that we absolutely do not take for granted. And we tell every single person joining the Soul Store today that how we were a hungry, young, desperate brand that wanted to succeed back in 2013. Today, there are 500 such desperate, young, hungry entrepreneurs that want to succeed. So while it's very comfortable sitting at the top of the mountain, it's also very important to realize that the moment you start getting a bit complacent, there's that next TSS waiting to knock you off your perch. But if I have to look at some of the initial successes, I think one thing that really kind of pushed us from that fun young startup to hey, this is a brand that you guys need to take seriously, is some of our first collaborations. So I remember when we first tied up with NH7 Weekender, we were doing merchandise for all of their comedians and their musicians. I think that was personally a very, very big defining moment for us, because you had all of these really, really cool guys like AIB, Nuclear, all of these people telling their fans, hey, go to thesoulstore.com and buy merch, right? So that kind of validation, that kind of marketing, getting that for free is something that we was great for us. It's something that we could not have bought. It's something we could not have purchased. So I think that legitimacy that those associations gave us really helped create a certain vibe and a certain perception amongst the younger audience that follow their favorite YouTube stars. And then I think the next one was when we signed the first licenses of Friends and The Big Bang Theory. The kind of customer love that we got, and we made sure that we didn't want to simply be a brand that puts a logo on a t-shirt and sells it. There's absolutely no fun in that, right? That's something anyone can do. So we made sure that when you buy a Friends product, you get a songbook of all of Phoebe's songs. When you buy a Big Bang Theory t-shirt, you actually get a customized roommate agreement signed by Dr. Sheldon Cooper. And that's when fans really, really started noticing us. We had so many people writing out to us on social media, on emails, on calls, telling us, hey, I bought the t-shirt only because I want the customized roommate agreement by Dr. Sheldon Cooper. And I think that's when a lot of customers and brands started realizing the value that TSS adds to every license. That's why we were really able to distinguish ourselves from so many other people who were trying to do licensed merchandise. And I think that's what really pushed us into the next level of being that one brand that everyone wants to collaborate with for licenses. So yeah, I think these were two or three of the standout moments from our first couple of years at TSS.
Okay. I'm going to order the BBT t-shirt now. Thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah, I want to ask Harsh. So considering the choice of medium, right now, there are also so many pros that sort of come with being online, but there is also the flip side where you get immediate feedback from customers, and this can go either way, right? It can be good and bad. So how important is this to you? How important is responding to consumers when they do give you feedback, both positive and negative, and how does this shape a brand?
I think great question, Kirti. Every single thing or every single decision that we make today at the Soul Store is based on two core fundamentals. One is data, and two is what is the customer saying, right? Sitting in an office today in Bombay, it's very easy for me to assume what someone it's very easy for us to sometimes get blinded by our own biases and preferences, especially when it comes to creative fields, right? If I would wear this t-shirt, therefore I should sell it is probably the biggest mistake that anyone can make. And what we do, right, like I mentioned, Kirti, is whenever we launch any new product, when we launch any new design, when we launch any new category, we make sure that within the first couple of weeks of launch itself, we call at least 300 to 400 customers who bought that product. We have a detailed checklist of questions that we ask them in terms of fit, in terms of quality, in terms of fabric, in terms of value for money, and the overall feedback that the customers have in terms of the new product. Because we do realize that every time we are trying something new, there is going to be a chance of us probably, having a couple of misses, something that may not match the customer's expectations and standards. Once every product has this sort of score out of 5 that we do rate, then we go back to the concern team, where it could be the design team, it could be the strategy team for the pricing, it could be the product team for the fit and the fabric. And if our score goes below 4.5 out of 5 for any of these metrics, we then sit with the concern team, we make sure that the necessary changes are carried out, and we do a survey again after 2 to 3 months. So customer feedback is very, very important. What we've also realized, interestingly enough, is for every positive comment that you do get, or for every one customer who is happy, you'll have 20 people who want to voice their opinions. And I think the reason for this is people who are happy with their product expect a brand to give you great service and great quality. Those are people who are not going to be the most vocal on social media, because for them it's a matter of expectation. But the people who are not happy with the product, or the people who have some sort of opinions or feedback, are always going to be the most vocal. And we actually see this as a positive, not a negative, because if there is scope for us to improve and make sure that we are giving customers an even better product or an even better service, is something I look at as an opportunity and not as a problem. And I think that's one of the reasons you've seen online brands growing and succeeding at a much faster pace, is because that feedback loop between us thinking of a product, us launching a product, you as a customer giving your feedback, and then us making those changes, that entire cycle can happen a lot faster than the traditional offline brands used to, right? If I was an offline brand selling 200, 300 offline stores, I would probably plan my winter collection back in January, right? In January, I'm planning the next year's winter collection. I'm taking 3 months to design that product. I'm taking another 3 months to share those product catalogs with 300 different distributors. They give me their feedback, then it goes to the customer. By the time the customer gives their feedback in terms of buying the product or not buying the product, I have absolutely no flexibility to make any changes, right? And that's why we've seen so many offline traditional brands actually not succeed because they've not been able to be agile enough. So yeah, this is at the core of what we do as a brand. There's a lot of times where we felt certain things may or may not make sense, and we've gotten some pretty strong feedback from our customers. And there have been certain pivots or certain changes that we have made. And I'm extremely grateful to every single person who is loud and vocal on social media, because you guys actually help us become a better, more customer friendly brand.
Okay. So I also want to understand your take on the apparel industry in India itself and where do you see it moving toward, and are there any trends that you've noticed, at least since the pandemic?
So I think in general, in the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen the number of online brands really shoot up, especially in the apparel space and especially in the licensed merchandise space. One common complaint that all of my friends keep giving me is, "Hey, I'm following the Soul Store on social media. I bought a couple of your products, and now I'm being spammed by 50 random T-shirt brands selling their products as well, right?" So I think as we go along, this space is only going to get more crowded. The barriers to entry to starting your own website and to starting your own set of merchandise are very low. So it's a lot cheaper, it's a lot faster. There's a lot of plug and play options as well. So if I want to start my own website today, it's a lot simpler. If I want to work with a delivery partner and use their warehouse, it's a lot easier. I don't have to make the investments today that I had to make back in the day as the sole store. But what also happens is, as more and more companies, as more and more brands are fighting for that same customer's attention and wallet share, what we have seen over the last couple of years is that advertising and branding is going to get more expensive. When as a customer, Kirti, you have the choice between 50 different brands. As a brand, I have to spend a lot more money in product, in marketing, and branding to convince you that this is the t-shirt that you should buy, as opposed to that. So we do feel, and one learning that we've had over COVID is that customers are not looking for the cheapest product. They're not looking for the biggest discount. They are looking for the product that will actually give them maximum value for money. So you don't have to be the cheapest product available online. I think as long as you can convince customers that you will provide them value for money, that you can provide them great designs, great products, and great fits at a price that is affordable for them, customers will definitely stay loyal to you. And when we started off, in March, April, May 2020, when everything had shut down, the reason we were actually able to sustain as a brand is because of the core set of loyal customers that we had. We were very transparent with them, saying, hey, there's a lockdown. We don't have clarity on when we'll be able to ship our products next. But it'll be great if you can support your favorite brand by placing an order today to make sure that that cash flow is coming in. And the moment things open up, we will make sure that we ship your products immediately. Those customers that we've built that bond with over the first 5, 6, 7 years of our journey actually helped us out by placing orders in the month of March without knowing whether those t-shirts will be delivered in April or May or June or July or never, right? And I think when you treat your customers well, when you make sure that you are providing value to your customers will always be there to pick you up in your most difficult times. So as any entrepreneur starting off today, I think focus on creating value. Do not chase valuations. Do not chase top lines in terms of not being sustainable, right? We see a lot of people burning money today, offering unsustainable discounts, going absolutely crazy with their marketing. And what we need to realize is that if you are creating a customer base that is loyal to your price, that is loyal to your discount, but not your brand, it's very easy to be replaced by another bigger brand tomorrow with deeper pockets who can offer larger discounts, right? So I think focus on creating value, focus on creating that relationship with the customer, and you will always be a much more successful, sustainable business in the long run.
Thank you, Harsh. I think that's commendable, the kind of loyal customer base you've sort of built. And I know people personally also who are, I think, in love with Soul Store.
Awesome. Thank
So,
you.
yeah, we'd also want to understand a little bit about your own journey. I mean, you've had an interesting journey. So, all the stints in advertising, journalism, law, and tattooing to, now running your own business. So, what is this transition be like? And what made you want to explore so many different avenues, and what gave you the courage?
Well, yeah, that's is almost like answering my entire CV in one question. But I think the simple reason behind experimenting was I'm someone, to be honest, who gets bored very easily. And if I'm not 100% interested in something, I will not even give my 50%. I think that's just how I'm a bit extreme in that sense. If I like something, I'm going to go 200% into it. If I don't like something, I will put the absolute minimum effort required just to get the job done. So I took up science in the 11th and 12th because I knew after that I had every option open. So it was a bit of a safe bet. After I finished science in the 11th and 12th, I had three options, right? Engineering, medicine, and law. These were the three obvious options for anyone who's taken up science. I didn't take up engineering because my mom told me, you're not going to travel all the way to the suburbs. Attendance is compulsory. You're going to get lazy. You're going to get thrown out of college. Don't do that. That was her advice to me. I didn't take up medicine because I was never a fan of biology in college. So I'm like, is this something I want to do for 5 years and then another 5, 10, 15 years? So basically, by a process of elimination, I took up law without really being sure on what it's going to entail. I did law for 5 years. I did a bunch of internships as well to see what it's like. But when I saw people, when I saw my seniors, when I saw associates at law firms, the one thing I realized is this is not something I'm going to be happy doing for the rest of my life. So I was always thinking, okay, if not law, what next? What next? What next? So my friend and I decided to do a journalism internship in our last semester in GLC, right? So at a time when everyone is doing internships and looking to get a pre-placement offer to secure their job, my friend and I made this very smart decision to throw it all away and do a journalism internship because we were both good with language, we both liked writing. So we're like, hey, why not try something completely different, right? So we interned with, so my friend and I interned with the BBC for 2 months. That was a lot of fun. We got to work with their radio team and their television team. But I realized, unfortunately, that even journalism is a long, hard grind. It's not something that pays very well initially and is not something that's going to be sustainable. So the moment I graduated from GLC, where a lot of my friends were taking up their first jobs in law, I actually took up an internship in advertising, right? I've studied for 5 years. I've gotten two law degrees and now I'm suddenly doing an internship in a completely different field and going 5 steps back in my career. But I decided to give it a shot. So I did an internship there. I even did a 6 or 7 month job, but then I realized it's something I wasn't keen on. So then here I am, 1.5 years after I've graduated. I'm seeing all of my friends, who spent 1.5 years at their law firms. And I'm telling myself, hey, you're like 22, 23, 24. You need to figure something out in life. You can't just keep doing random stuff. So I then told myself, what do I really like doing? What is something I'm going to be passionate about for the rest of my life? And fortunately or unfortunately, the first thing that popped up in my head was tattooing because I had three tattoos at that time. I absolutely love tattoos. And I told myself, if I can make a career out of this, this is going to be great, right? Do what you love what you do. Sounds really fun. Let's do it. So I did a 6 month internship at a tattoo studio. It was probably the most interesting, the most 6 fun months of my life. But I realized early on that while I really love getting tattoos, I am probably not the best in terms of drawing and creating them, and I'm probably not going to be a great artist going forward. So it's not something I can really make money off. So at that point, I decided to go back to law, decide to stick to something safe and basic, something that's stable as a career. And then fortunately, at the time, I was finishing about half a year or a year at my law firm. That's the time my three co-founders were also getting bored of their first jobs, and that's when the idea to do something that we actually want to do came about. But I think the one interesting piece that came out through all the various jobs, internships, the various courses that I did, I made sure that whenever I was doing something, I gave my 200%. So if I was switching from law to journalism or journalism to advertisement, I knew that this is potentially something that I could make my career on. So I made sure that I gave my 200% to learning something new. I gave my 200% to understanding what would a career in this field really entail. And then I give myself the best opportunity to really understand, is this something that I'm meant for? Because I realized at that time that if I'm going to half-ass something, if I'm not really going to give my 200% to advertisement or journalism, I'm never going to really understand, was this career suited for me or was this not? So, to a lot of students who are in a similar space, you guys are probably not sure on what you want to do. There's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of anxiety. Hey, some of my friends know exactly what they want to do for the next couple of years, but I'm not really sure. I think do not worry at all. If there's something that you're interested in, right? There are so many more online courses available today. There are so many more virtual internships available. So my only feedback to all of you is experiment, right? You guys are young. No one today is going to look at your CV and say, why did you try 5 different things? In fact, if you've done 5 different internships and you bring more skill sets to the table, as an organization is looking to hire people, I would be much more likely to get you on my team than someone who's only stuck to one career path their entire journey. So make sure you're experimenting, make sure you're learning different skill sets, make sure you're trying courses, make sure you're talking to people definitely to understand what are the skill sets that companies are looking for today, and make sure that your CV is a lot more well rounded. So I think today or this day and age is as good a time as any to experiment, to understand what is it that truly excites you. And if it means that you need to spend 2 or 3 years making your mistakes and learning, I think that's perfectly fine. But don't settle for a job that you're not happy with because you don't want to spend the next 15, 12 years of your life being unhappy, right? So sacrificing those 2, 3 years today is not a big sort of deal at all in the larger scheme of things. And please give yourself that freedom to try, fail, and eventually figure it out.
Harsh, knowing what you know today, is there anything that you wish you had done differently in the past, or you're happy with all the decisions?
To be honest, I know it's going to sound a bit cliche, but I would not change anything. I think if I hadn't gone through all of those frustrating months and years of what is happening, what do I need to do? I'm old enough, get a real job, start basically figuring stuff out, start saving money for the future. I think if I hadn't gone through all of those experiences, and it's the same with my co-founders, right? I think if all of us hadn't gone through that, the Soulstore would not be what it is today. So I'm in fact happy that I have gone through all of those. I've there's a lot of learnings, I've taken from my advertisement stint that helped us in our marketing today. There's, I used to keep bashing my 5 years at law, saying what a waste of time. I can't believe I spent 5 years getting a law degree, but that's something I use every single day today because most of our business, there are so many partnerships based on agreements and contracts that it always helps to have some familiarity with those. When I learned tattooing, I learned patience, right? We used to spend 80-90% of our time only cleaning equipment. It's by far the most frustrating thing you can do. You keep thinking, I'm going to come today, I'm going to make some insane tattoos, I'm going to do some really cool graphic art. You look at the fun part of it. What you don't look at is you're going to sit in a room by yourself for 8 or 9 hours on a Saturday when your friends are going out and chilling, but you're literally spending your Saturday evening sitting and cleaning equipment and making sure that that equipment is clean 100% because there are so many safety implications. So I think when you go through those really um, tough sort of moments, I think that's when you really get kind of prepared for a much tougher life. And I think if you don't go through those initial years of struggle, then when you start your own organization and something suddenly comes out of the blue, you will not be prepared for it, right? And as an entrepreneur, it's a very thankless journey. Like I said, it can be a very frustrating journey at times. But if you're not willing to really, like buckle up and go through that, it can be a very difficult journey. So it's something that's not meant for everyone. If you're willing to do it, it's very rewarding. But be very certain that it's okay to have a job, right? It's okay to follow your passion working for another organization. So don't have that mindset that if I don't start my own organization, then it's a failure, right? Or why have I not done that? I think different people are cut out for different things. And the sooner you identify your strengths and your preferences, the better.
Thank you. Harsh, before we move on to the audience questions, we have a short rapid fire or sort of random questions that we'd like to shoot at you. So
Sure.
goes nothing. Which was the last book that you read?
So I'm in the middle of reading right now. 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. It's written by Yuval Noah Harari, who's also written Sapiens. So that's an interesting book. But I think because work is super hectic, I could read four pages at a time, and then there's something else. So I'm a bit of a slow reader, but it's a very interesting book, definitely.
Okay. If you had to make a movie out of your life, what would the title be?
I think work in progress. I think I think that's always what things are, right? You've never completely figured it out. There is nothing that's perfect. There is nothing that's been solved. There's always a better, smarter, different way of doing something. So yeah, probably work in progress.
Okay. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Um, I think impulsive at times is what I've heard. Um, Passionate, definitely, in the sense that if I don't like something, I think I could be one of two extremes. I will absolutely not care at all, or I will absolutely be 300% into it. And I think desperate to succeed. It's not a word; it's a phrase, but I think that's something that I very strongly identify with.
Okay. What are the three things that you would bring with you if you were teleported to a deserted island?
I think in today's day and age, obviously a device with Wi-Fi, I think that would be interesting. Um, some sort of sporting equipment for sure. I think that to keep myself busy and fit. And probably if I could, my third item would maybe be a handful of friends to keep me company if I could use that answer.
Okay. This one's a cliche, but when was the last time you did something for the first time?
When was the last time? I think, I mean, to be honest, we've had so many different things happening this week itself. Like I said, we went offline for the first time after 6 years. We had a couple of stores opening during COVID, and now most likely in the next 3 months, we're going to have three stores open simultaneously, including our first stores outside Maharashtra, right? So there's so many different things happening. Like I said, on the entrepreneurial front, we have the IPL coming up. We have so many new teams that are being formed. So I think every day at work there is something new, there is something fun, there is something that's exciting, and I think that's what makes the journey so fulfilling, right? You don't wake up thinking, oh shit, it's the same thing every single day. So yeah, I think pretty much every single day, and yeah, this last week itself there have been three or four really big interesting things that we've signed up, and hopefully you guys will follow us on social media and get more detailed updates soon. So yeah, probably yesterday.
Thank you, Harsh. We'll take some questions from the audience now. I request you guys to unmute yourself when your names are called and ask your questions. Krishna Abhilash.
Guys, it would also be better if you could switch on your videos as well.
Good afternoon, Harsh.
Hi.
Hello. My question is, see, when we are going for a new startup or something, isn't it better if we
Hmm.
keep our profession and passion apart? Because uh, when we are practicing a profession, passion is something like an escape mechanism or something which we can do after our work to get refreshed in our mind or something like that. So if we practice our passion as a profession, aren't we creating a hindrance to ourselves so that we don't have a way out of that? If we get stuck somewhere or if we get frustrated with that, then there is no way out of that. So isn't it better to keep it apart?
I think that's a very interesting question. It's something I've not thought about, to be honest. Where your work and your post-work relaxation is revolved around the same thing. In a best case, your passion and your profession both keep you professionally and personally fulfilled. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, Krishna, I think when you build something out of your passion, you're going to have frustrating days, you're going to have frustrating months. There are going to be times where you're going to question, the decisions that you've made. But I think if there is enough passion, if there is enough excitement, if you tell yourself, why did I really start this? Why did I really build this? I think that dedication will help through the frustrating days. And then when you see those good days, like those couple of good days after a lot of really difficult, struggling days, I think eventually it's worth it, right? If I have to give you a really random example, it's like working out. When you start working out on the first day, you're not going to build muscles or lose weight, right? It's going to be really frustrating. But eventually, when you see the transformation, then it gives you the satisfaction, right? That okay, the days and the months and the hours that I've put in have finally borne fruit. So I think of it as a journey, think of it as a marathon. It's not going to be a 100-meter sprint where you put your effort today and you see results tomorrow. So if you're willing to dedicate that effort over a long period, you will definitely see results. If it's something that you're not cut out for, then it's not something that I would recommend.
Thank you, Harsh.
Most welcome.
Thank you. Riya Chopra.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Ria.
Yes.
So, yeah, I actually did have a question. So this was the first time that we came to know your introduction properly. I'm so sorry I'm not able to switch my camera on. I'm traveling at the moment. But
No
then,
problem.
what actually led you to the field of fashion and everything? Like, what was your motivation behind entering the field of fashion?
Cool. So I think fashion was the effect. It wasn't the cause. I think the reason or the idea behind starting the Soul Store is that all of us were fans of movies, TV shows, superheroes, cartoons, and sports teams growing up. So our main idea was, why don't we do something around this domain? And I think that was the main idea that started it off. And the reason we decided fashion, or the reason we decided apparel, is because we realized as fans that wanted to buy official Marvel t-shirts and Star Wars t-shirts and Cartoon Network t-shirts, there was absolutely nothing available in the country as big as India, right? You either bought like a 200, 300 rupee fake product where you couldn't trust the quality. You wash it a couple of times and the shape starts shrinking, the color starts coming off, or you spend 2,000, 3,000 rupees buying a product from the US or the UK. And most likely that product was manufactured in India, shipped to the US, and then you're paying a premium to get that product back to India, right? It seemed like a very inefficient and a very expensive supply chain. So that's the reason we decided to do something. It was purely from the selfish reason of if we do this, we'll have cool clothes to wear ourselves, right? That's why we did it. And I'm wearing a TSS t-shirt right now. So my entire wardrobe is filled with our stuff. And that's why we decided to do clothes, because we realized there are so many fans out there that want to wear their heart on their sleeve, that want to show off about the brands or the characters that they like. And we wanted to give people a mechanism or a way to actually express themselves. And that's why we started Apparel, and that's why we started License Apparel back in 2013.
Thank you, so that was quite insightful.
Most
Thank
welcome.
you, yeah. Ankita Sana? Ankita, are you here? Okay, so I'm going to ask Ankita's question. So she's asking, what is there a key ingredient that you require to grow as a leader?
I think as a leader, the one thing that we pretty much, I wouldn't say struggle with, but I think it's a learning process every single day, is how you transform. What I think the one big learning that we've had, Kirti, here is that being good at something or being experienced at something and being a good manager are two very different things. Just because you are able to do something better or faster or more efficiently than someone else does not necessarily mean you will be a good manager. I think the difference between someone who's good at their job and a good leader, a good manager, is someone who can actually train new people, who can actually equip new people with the same set of skills. So I think the one thing that is very important if you want to actually build a team for the future is giving your people you're not going to give them the freedom to think. You're not going to give them the freedom to experiment. You're not going to give them the freedom to fail. And as I mentioned, when you're working at a startup, there are new challenges every single day. So you have to equip your team to be able to think on their feet. You have to empower them to take certain decisions on the spot when you may or may not be available to give them guidance. And I think that sort of culture of experimenting and that culture of, as long as we're all looking at the same bigger picture, I may have a different way of reaching it, you may have a different way of reaching it, but always being open to people's opinions, always being open to different ways of doing the same thing and giving their flexibility. I think that is what is super, super important, especially at a startup where, as a founder, you're going to have 500 things that you're looking at. You have to make sure that your team has the right skill set to be able to take certain decisions and certain ownerships of tasks on their own. So that's something that we've learned the hard way, because when you just start off, there is a tendency to micromanage. There's a tendency to make sure that everything is happening at 200% and you want to be involved. But at some point, you have to realize that you have to cut that umbilical cord. You have to kind of let the bird leave the nest, let the bird fly on its own. And I think that's when you start trusting your team more and more. I think that's when you start seeing great results.
Thank you. So Shant?
Yes. Hello, Harsh.
Hi, Sushant.
So I have two questions. The first question is, like, you have been working with so many SKUs, be backpacks or t-shirts and many more. So was this the initial strategy to go with so many SKUs, or just build upon one SKU and then slowly improve on it, like increase the SKUs slowly?
Got it. So I'll just answer that. So I think great question, firstly, Sushant. When we started off, I think, if I'm not mistaken, initially we only launched t-shirts, badges, and a couple of other products. The reason behind that is the minimum quantities for us to manufacture were less, so our investments were low, right? It was a purely economical decision. There was no larger brand or thought process. And then as and when the company started growing, we started adding more and more categories, because we realized that as a fan, you want a Marvel t-shirt, then you also want a backpack, you want a mug, you want a badge, you want a sticker. So initially, because of our finances, a lot of initial decisions were purely based on efficiency of working capital and efficiency of quantities. Then as a brand, if you see, after the first 2 or 3 years, we had a lot of different accessories that we launched. We had backpacks as well. And then in the last 3 or 4 years, we've actually again consolidated where we've discontinued a lot of the smaller accessories, and we are now focusing a lot more on apparel. So within the larger umbrella of apparel, we've launched a lot of women's products in the last couple of years. We've launched a lot of top wear, bottom wear, different fabrics, different fits, different cuts, different experimentation with performance wear, seasonal wear. So I think our core focus going forward is within the larger scope of apparel. What are the new innovation that we can really offer our customer base? And I think that's what the next sort of phase of growth at the source of will look like.
Okay. And one more question, Harsh. When can we expect anime merchandise apart from Dragon Ball Z?
Very soon, you are the 10,000th customer that has reached out to us and saying, I want is something that we are very, very closely working on. And you will hear a couple of announcements soon. But just in general, in terms of sports, in terms of anime, movies, TV shows, cartoons, all of these genres that we have a lot of really, really big announcements coming up in the next 3 4 months. I don't want to be that person that leaves this show on a cliffhanger and asks you to wait for the next season. But I can absolutely promise you, if you follow us on social media in the next couple of months, I am personally excited. There's at least about 10 or 12 really, really exciting big collaborations with your favorite movies, with your favorite TV shows, with your favorite sporting teams coming up at the Soul Source. So yeah, stay tuned.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Most
Sushant.
welcome.
Raghuram?
Hi, Harsh. First of all, big fan of your work. I own a dozen of your t-shirts. I and my brother
Thank you
together.
so much. Thank
Uh,
you. I hope you're an exclusive member. You get it for far cheaper.
so, in the early days of your career, I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure you might have had a doubt in your brain to invest or not to invest in the business. In terms of money, how did you deal with finances back then? You and the rest of the co-founders.
So it was actually pretty simple, to be honest. Most decisions that we made back in 2013, 2014 was simply based on can we afford it, can we not afford it. That was the only decision or that was the only main thought process behind our decisions. So all of us did our first jobs together, like I said, right? And when you just graduated back in 2013, India was not paying very well. I'm going to be honest with you. Now you have so many companies being funded. You have like ridiculous offers being offered to students. We all had 5 lakhs combined in savings. So our goal was simple. You can either take this 5 lakhs and you can stretch it for as much as possible. The longer you stretch this 5 lakhs, the longer you stay away from a boring job. The sooner you blow up this 5 lakhs, the sooner you will have to go back to a boring job, right? So our motivation was simple. You decide, do you want to make this 5 lakhs grow and do something with it, or do you want to go back to a job that you don't like? And we were actually able to grow that initial 5 lakhs back in 2013 organically, right? Without any external funding, without any additional capital or investments. We were able to grow that to a company doing an annual revenue of 35 crores completely organically in 2018. And that's actually the first time we decided to raise our external funding, right? And the reason we raised that round is not because we needed that money to survive or sustain as an organization, but we realized that in 2018, at a time where most online brands were doing discounts to try attracting customers, that's something that our marketplace friends do very, very successfully. We realized that we had the opposite problem where we were not able to keep up with the demand. So we realized that we were regularly getting sold out on our top selling products. We were not able to invest in enough inventory and we were not able to keep up with the demand. So we used to actually keep increasing prices, which was unheard of as an online brand, because I knew that if I've got 500 black t-shirts, those t-shirts are going to get sold out irrespective, right? So if I'm going to sell those t-shirts out, I might as well increase my price and increase my margins. And we realized at that time that this is where we need to raise external funding so we can actually get that capital to grow our business, grow our inventory, and keep up with the demand. So I think it was a good problem to have where we had to actually raise our prices to keep up with the demand, whereas a lot of our competitors had to discount their products and convince people that please try my brand out and give them a 30, 40, 50% discount. So yeah, I think that's where it was. And for me, I think it was an investment in my peace of mind and my happiness. So it wasn't a fear that this money is going to get lost. In fact, it was motivation for me to make sure that that money never gets burnt.
Thank you.
Most welcome.
Thank you, Raghuram. Siddharth?
Yeah, hi Harsh. A big fan of the Soul Store. And
Thank you,
I have
Siddharth.
two questions. The first one is, do you see TSS entering the customized merchandises in the near future? If not, why?
Okay, so in terms of customization being a central part of our business or a core part of our business going forward, I do not see that. And I think that's more from an operational point of view. I think in terms of product timelines, in terms of product quality, and in terms of scale, there are certain inherent challenges in the customized business. Yes, there are more margins because you can charge people more for a customized product than for a product that's available off the shelf for everyone. But I think in terms of economies of scale, what we have realized is every decision that we make today is with a longer term horizon. We're not looking at a decision that's going to make money for the next 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. We are looking at the potential from a longer horizon. If that's something that makes sense, then we're happy to invest the money today. But if you're looking at something purely from the shorter run, then that's not how we at least want to operate as an organization. Having said that, because we do tie up with so many IPL teams and football teams, and customization is an important part of the sporting merger, there is something interesting that we're going to launch specifically on that front, but not as a longer term part of our core business.
And just a small question or a request, like we don't see much of those badges, those quirky badges and phone covers now in the Soul Store app. So could you bring them
Yes.
back? Like
So,
we want them.
unfortunately, yes, we have discontinued a lot of those smaller trinkets. It's not a part of our core focus going forward. So I don't think those will launch online anytime soon. Having said that, if any of you guys are in Bombay, some of our offline stores still have badges and pins and some of the other trinkets. So maybe when you're in Bombay next, probably stop by one of our offline stores and you could probably get a handful of them.
Thank you, Siddharth. We have one more question from Rishabh.
Yeah, hi Kirti. Hi Harsh. So
Hi.
my question is that your social media game is top notch, as we all have seen, right? But you are also opening these physical stores, and you are also present on the marketplace, I guess, right?
Yes.
So what is your long-term strategy in that? Where are you focusing most on?
Great question, Siddharth. I think, when we just started off, we obviously had only our website that we were selling through. We actually launched our mobile app. We had requests from a lot of customers for a very long time. And we launched our mobile app literally 1 week before the lockdown hit, which is, in hindsight, the worst time to launch an app because that's a time where everyone has so many other things on their mind. But in terms of strategy, in terms of distribution channels, we definitely see marketplaces and our offline stores taking up a much larger percentage of our revenue. Most of our revenue is still concentrated to our own website and app because that's the kind of audience that we have built. But we do realize that when you're looking at your next phase of growth, your next phase of expansion as a brand, it is very important to be present where the customers are. So if I want to buy a TSS t-shirt on an Amazon or a Myntra or a Flipkart because I'm more comfortable shopping on that portal, then it's important for us to be present. The reason we decided to go offline, Siddharth, back in 2019 was we had been present as an online brand for about 6 years. We wanted to make sure that we have some sort of permanent branding in the city, and we chose Bombay because that's where we're based out of. So we realized that you could either spend a lot of money and have a billboard where people just cross that every day, they see your logo, or you can actually start a physical offline store where you have a permanent billboard that actually makes money because customers can enter your store, they can experience your brand, they can talk to your team, and then
Hmm.
they can actually touch and feel the products before they buy. So the first store that we opened in May 2019 in Bandra was, to be honest, a bit of an experiment. It was essentially a completely branding play at our
Hmm.
end. And we were very clear that if we can sustain our store and if we can break even, then it's great for us to have a permanent billboard at one of the most premium locations in the city. Um, Having said that, in the first 3 or 4 months itself, we were very pleasantly surprised with the kind of response we got to our offline stores. Again, it was something that we were doing for the first time. A lot of people told us, you're an online brand. Why do you want to get into the headache of starting offline stores? You're going to spend so much money. Your money is going to get stuck in rents and salaries. It's not the most efficient way of spending money, right? But we
Yeah.
decided to take a chance with one offline store as a bit of a branding gamble. We were able to recover our entire investment in setting up that store within the first 3 months itself. And that gave us so much more confidence that people love our products. When people look at our store, they actually have a certain perception of the brand when they come and they see their favorite superheroes and cartoon merchandise. They love the products, they love the fit, they love the fabric. And our order values and our basket size offline is almost 2x of what it is online. So when someone is actually coming inside our store, once they actually experience that whole TSS vibe, they actually end up shopping 2x at the amount that they end up shopping on our app and on our website. So that's when we started our first store. Our next four stores, interestingly, all started post the lockdown. Not, I mean, very, very interesting timings, obviously, for the launch. But we realized that during the strictest months of the lockdown, all our stores were still breaking even or making money. So we are now a lot more confident that in those months, I think if the TSS offline store can sustain, then it's simply a question of how fast can we expand. And we are going to be opening 50 stores in the next 3 to 4 years across the country. So we're definitely going to be hitting Chennai soon as well. Don't worry about that. And we have a lot of plans to make sure that wherever our customer is, we are going to make sure online, offline, the sold store marketplaces, your shop in shops like Pantaloons, Lifestyles, etc. Wherever our customer is, we are going to be present because we are confident that once a customer sees the product, they experience the product, they will buy the product.
Definitely.
Yeah, but great question. I'm really happy you asked that.
Thanks. Yeah, Kirti.
Yes, we'll take one last question from Mohit before we wrap up.
Sure.
Mohit.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to ask one of the questions. I usually see the site, your website, and I've seen that you have largely focused on influencer marketing rather than using celebrities or mass marketing like print and TV. So this approach is different from other stores. So what's your thought on this?
Very good question, Mohit. So I think as a brand has evolved, right? When I say as a brand has evolved in terms of the familiarity that people have, how many people have heard of the Soul Store, where are we at in terms of our growth journey, and what are our next steps? I think we've also seen a pretty interesting evolution in terms of marketing. When we started off, 100% of our marketing was focused on Facebook and then eventually Google and Instagram, because that is where you have your performance marketing, right? If I'm putting 1 rupee in marketing today, I want 5 rupees, I want 6 rupees out of that because I do not have money to burn. Then obviously, as we grew as a platform, there were a lot of other smaller types we did with influencers, a lot of brand collaborations we did where you do not directly see the ROI, but you're creating a certain perception of the brand. Now, if you see off late, we've now started working with much bigger celebrities. We've recently tied up with Ravindra Jadeja. One of his fellow cricketers from the Indian team is also going to go live on our website soon. One of Bollywood's biggest actresses is also going to go live on our website. I think now we've reached that stage where most people in the 18 to 30 audience know about the Soul Store. I think for us, the next big challenge is creating that brand perception, which is going to obviously happen through celebrity endorsements, right? When you have these large celebrities vouching for the Soul Store, there's a certain authenticity, there's a certain trust that is built. So that is what the next phase of our marketing looks like. And definitely maybe like a year or year and a half down the line, television, outdoor, and newspapers would be a part of our marketing channels. It's just that the biggest advantage of making these spends online today is you get real time feedback on whether customers are liking the association, they're not liking the association. Is this something that makes sense? Is this something that doesn't make sense? And I think generally that's what is the most fun part about being an online brand is today if I put up an image or a post with any celebrity, I think that feedback is very quick and very loud on whether people like the celebrity, they don't like the celebrity. Why did you work with this celebrity? We feel this celebrity makes more sense with your brand. I think that feedback is a lot faster than me putting up a billboard of Ravindra Jadeja and not really knowing whether people are liking it or people are not liking it. So that will definitely be a part of our sort of branding journey going forward. But I think focusing on online spends will always be a core part of our overall business.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank
Most
you.
welcome.
Harsh, one last question from my end. I think more than a question,
Yes.
I just want to take your take on this. So, what's your advice to anyone out there who's still contemplating whether they should just follow their passion or go the traditional route, do something, work somewhere? So, what should they do, and how do you follow your passion, and how do you just take that leap?
That's again a great question. I've actually given a couple of 15-20 minute talks on that question, but I'm going to try giving you a really quick 1 minute answer. I think the first thing is when you're starting something or when you're planning to start something, right? I think what is super important is for you to understand why you're doing it. Are you doing it simply because you want to have that whole thing of, hey, I've started my own brand? Is that what is motivating you? Or is the specific problem that you're trying to solve, the specific product or the service that you're coming up with, is that something you're passionate about, right? So is it simply, I want to start my own organization and it could be anything, or this is something that I'm specifically passionate about? I think that's one question that you have to ask yourself very, very honestly, and see which of the two answers makes more sense for you. The second recommendation I would have is, while it's great fun and it gives you a head start to start your own organization straight out of college, I would personally recommend what helped me to actually succeed at the source was the fact that I'd done a bunch of internships in the past. I'd done a bunch of courses, right? So even if you have an idea, I think spend some time developing it. It's not a race, right? Don't start an organization with the whole concept of FOMO. If I don't do this, someone else will do tomorrow. Absolutely not. An idea is worth nothing, right? You and I and Rishabh and a bunch of us can all have the same idea, and you can start it before me or I can start it before you. But eventually, how well you execute it will determine whether or not you succeed. So if you need to take a little more time talking to more people, getting that experience, doing those internships, make sure that you have a decent enough idea on what you want to do. Make sure that you are picking and choosing your co-founders or your initial team very, very thoroughly, because those are the people that will set your culture for the next 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, 500 people. So again, like I said, don't think of it as a race. Don't think of it as a first come, first serve. If I'm the first person to start an idea with ABC company, I'm going to succeed. No. When we started off, there were multiple people trying to do what we were doing. After we started off, also we've seen hundreds of brands trying to do what we are doing. And it's not a game of speed, it's a game of stamina, it's a game of endurance, right? So be 200% sure before you start off something, because when you're starting an organization, and it's a slightly longer answer, but I want to make sure that this is super important for everyone who's probably having this dilemma. Please understand that when you're starting an organization with your friends or your family and you're employing certain people, at the end of the day, you are responsible for all of their careers as well. So please make sure that you understand the kind of responsibility that comes. You owe that to yourself, you owe that to your co-founders, you owe that to your colleagues, to your team members. And once you are convinced that this is what I want to do, then give your 200%, absolutely don't stop running. But make sure that you are convinced before you convince anyone else of why you want to start this. And if you have any doubt, right, take a little more time, because it's going to be a very, very difficult journey. There are a lot of times where you will feel like giving up, and only if you are 200% convinced that you are on the right path can you actually push through those difficult days. Otherwise, it's very easy to slip. And we've seen so many people starting of their own organizations with a lot of excitement, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, couple of things don't go as per plan. They say, hey, it didn't work out because he didn't do something or she didn't do something. Very easy to point fingers and blame someone and then go back to your life. So decide what motivates you, decide what excites you, and then absolutely give it your 200%.
Thank you, Harsh. I feel like that was the most fun, insightful session, or sort of 1 hour I spent. So thank you so much.
Awesome. No,
And
most welcome, Kirti.
thank you. And I would also like to thank the BPR team and Great Lakes for giving us this platform to interact with industry leaders and entrepreneurs. And thank you, audience, for being lovely. And we hope you have a great weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. It was absolutely lovely chatting. And I think what I find most interesting about most of these talks is some of the questions, because a lot of times even I'm thinking along certain lines that I have probably not thought of before. And if I had to think of when I was a 20, 21-year-old kid, I was absolutely wasting my time in government law college, not sure what I wanted to do. So I think the fact that you guys are attending these lectures, you guys are already thinking in certain lines, means you guys have a great head start. So all the very best with your careers, and I'm super, super excited to see what all of you guys do in life next.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good
Thanks,
weekend.
Ash.
See you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you, Harsh.
Harsh.